Namaskar. Welcome to this session. We have commenced discussing the Dhyana sadhana, Dhyana abhyas, Dharna dhyan practices or Dhyana dharana practices as they are popularly called. And we had a long enunciation lasting couple of sessions. Now today we are going to look into the very sutra and the bhashya. So this is the Antaranga aspect of Ashtanga Yoga. These are all internal aspects of Ashtanga Yoga, while up to Pratyahar they are external limbs of Ashtanga Yoga. Just as our embodiment has external limbs and internal limbs, the Ashtanga Yoga also has 5 of them as external limbs and 3 of them as internal limbs. They are not external practices and internal practices. So the Dharna is the first one, and you should recall that it is a flow right from Sthula pranayam, gross pranayam. It is a process that reaches a point of Dharana. That means the pranava, which comes in the Sukshma pranayam, from pranava the mind is cosmicalized and the mind stuff is totally transmuted, transformed, transfigured and cosmicalized. So the object of Dhyana Dharana appears in the Chitta like dream objects appear in the mind. So the support of Dharna, Dhyana, Samadhi is always metaphysical, and therefore that metaphysical aspects appears from Om, it fades in from Om and the Chitta gets confined to it, and therefore the definition is Desha Bandha Chittasya Dharana. Desha Bandha, here Desha has reference to a cognition within the mind, pratyaya within the mind, and it doesn't refer to a location in the physical dimension of the concept. So Desha Bandha Chittasya Dharana. So Chitta gets Desha Bandha, it gets confined. Now, of course, these deshas where the Dharna, Dhyana, Samadhi happens are in the internal realm. And in the internal realm, there are certain locations which are wonderful locus for Dharna, Dhyana, Samadhi. So therefore Vyasa tells us about these exalted locations in the body. What are these locations in the body? These references are not to the physical aspects or dimension of the locations, but esoteric aspects in the locations mentioned. So what are these locations? Desha vishishtha. So what are these Desha vishishtha? Particular Desha, Nabhi Chakre, Hridaya Pundarike, Murdha Jyotishi, Nasikagre, Jivhagre iti. So these are the locations where the Chitta finds a locus for Dharna, Dhyana, Samadhi to bloom and blossom. So these are Nabhi Chakra. Of course, the Nabhi refers to a location on the body that we call as navel. And then, of course, there is plexus. Nabhi is a plexus. Then so also Hridaya Pundarike. In physical dimension, this has reference to the heart location. So that is Hridaya Pundarika. Hridaya means heart and Pundarika means lotus. So the heart lotus. Then Murdhi. Again, location of the body that we refer to as crown of the head. Jyotishi or luminosity. Murdna, the crown of the head, has a luminosity kind of condition where it becomes support for Dharna, Dhyana, Samadhi. Then Nasikagre, tip of the nose. Jivhagre, tip of the nose. Iti evam adeshu desheshu Bahyeva vishaye Chittasya Desha Bandha iti Dharana. So these are, and such other adeshu desheshu, other locations of the body are also exalted and they are qualified for Dharna, Dhyan, Samadhi to have onset. So Bahyeva vishaye. So also the Bahya vishayas. There are certain external objects which are exalted and which are potentials for one to go into Dharna, Dhyana, Samadhi. What are these external objects? Bahye means icons of deities, icons of gods, icons of personal deities, what is called as Devamurty, or Hiranyagarbha and Suryadi. So these are all external supports on which one can get Dharna, Dhyan, Samadhi. And the Chitta getting confined and bound to these supports which are exalted, which are transcendent, then that confinement of the Chitta is called Dharna. So these are exalted supports on which Dharna takes place. Mind confined to anything, any worldly object, will not be Dharna. Although the mind can get confined, Chitta can get confined, but they should be metaphysical and they should be transfigured and transcendent objects, which can be external objects such as Devamurty, such as icon of Bhagavan Sri Krishna, Bhagavan Shiva, Dattatreya, Ganesha, or their yantras, or the luminous body of sun, or Hiranyagarbha. So these are all exalted supports for Dharna, Dhyan, Samadhi. So these supports appear from within. It is not that you are concentrating on image of Krishna, image of Shiva, which is extraneous to you, external to you. That gets into the mind and then there is a kind of apperceptive image of it. And then the Chitta getting confined to it, not getting confined to object outside, which can be icon, which can be lotus, which can be a flower. It is not concentrating on external object where the mind can get confined, Chitta can get confined, but that is not Dharna. There are only exalted supports which Vyasa has mentioned. So on those supports, Dharna occurs. So as I repeatedly said, these are metaphysical objects. These are nominal objects if they are metaphysical. If they are not nominal but phenomenal, then there are images of personal deities, Bhagavan Sri Krishna, Bhagavan Sri Rama, Bhagavan Shiva, Dattatreya, Ganesha, or the Kali, Mahakali, Mahasaraswati, Mahadurga, Mahalakshmi. So these are all images which produce a perceptive figuration in the mind, and the chitta getting confined to that external object which is internalized, external meditative object which is internalized, then that is dharana. So wherever the dharana takes place, Patanjali tells us tatra, there itself, wherever the dharana has taken place, tatra Ekataanata Dhyanam. So it should be noted that it is not possible that the dharana is on one support and dhyana is on another support. In order to rule that out, he uses that first term tatra. That means there itself. Wherever dharana has taken place, wherever the confinement of the chitta has taken place, wherever the arrestation of the chitta has taken place, tatra, there itself, Ekataanata Dhyanam. So, as you should recall, in the last session I told you that it is pravaha, it is a flow of similar cognitions. So when there is a flow of similar cognitions with respect to the support of the dharana, then that itself becomes dhyana. So dharana gives us the impression that it is confinement, it is arrestation. But dhyana tells us that it is a flow. So when it exalts, when the dharana escalates, then it becomes a flow. And then that is called pratyaya, flow of the pratyaya, flow of the cognition, flow of idea. That is having consistency with no variation, no modulation, no modification. When there is a continuous flow, that is called Ekataanata, Nirviplavata, unobstructed flow, continuous flow, sustained flow. That itself is dhyana. So therefore Vyasa tells us tasmin deshe, in the same region where dharana has taken place, tasmin deshe dheya alabbanasya pratyayasya ekataanata sadrusha pravaha pratyayantarena aparamrushtaha dhyanam. So wonderful predicates are used by Vyasa. Dheya alambanasya, in that with that support where the dharana has happened, pratyayasya ekataanata, continuous flow of similar cognitions, continuous consistent flow, ekataanata, which is sadrusha pravaha, that means which is of similar cognitive imprints, pratyantarena aparamrushtaha, untouched by pratyantara, not touched by any digression, continuous flow of it is dhyanam. Then tadeva arthamatra nirbhasam swarupa shunyam iva samadhi. Tadeva, see again, there itself, this is a very important thing to be noted. Wherever dharana takes place, there only dhyana takes place. Wherever dhyana has taken place, there itself samadhi takes place. Tadeva arthamatra nirbhasam swarupa shunyam iva. Arthamatra nirbhasam. Now only object is there. And then the subjective entity and the instrumental entity are also engulfed by the arthamatra, that is samadhi. So you should recall when we were discussing samapatti in the samadhi pada, nirvitarka samapatti, therein the example was given that Suppose the meditative support is image of Krishna. Then what is the trifurcation of the Chitta? There is a subjective entity compartment, instrumental entity compartment, and objective entity compartment. I behold Shri Krishna. I am beholding Shri Krishna. So these are three divisions. I am subjective entity. Beholding, seeing is instrumental entity, and Shri Krishna is the objective entity. So the diagram there showed the depiction that there is a trifurcation of the Chitta, tripartite division of the Chitta for subjective entity, objective entity, instrumental entity. Now where is the Dharna Dhyan taking place? On objective entity. So when objective entity is escalating to Dhyana, to the phase of Dhyana, then that compartment of objective entity goes on expanding, shrinking the other two compartments, other two parts, namely subjective and instrumental. So that is the process which escalates until the object is completely engulfing the entire Chitta, swallowing the subjective compartment and instrumental compartment. So if you look into the figure that was explained during Nirvitarka Samapatti, so when the object here, the Krishna, I am beholding Krishna. So when the Krishna is slowly expanding in the Chitta, swallowing the subjective entity compartment and instrumental entity compartment, now there is no longer expression or basis for expression I am beholding Shri Krishna, because I am is gone, beholding, seeing is gone, totally engulfed by Krishna. That is Arthamatra Nirbhasam and Swarupa Shunyam. That is, subjective entity of I is totally submerged and dissolved into Krishna, the object. So that's how Patanjali has used the wonderful predicates Arthamatra Nirbhasam and Swarupa Shunyam. That is Samadhi. So one needs to recall the description of Nirvitarka Samapatti that took place in Samadhi Pada. So Vyasa tells us here, Dhyanam eva dheyakara nirbhasam pratyayatmakena swarupena shunyam iva yada bhavati dheya sabhavaveshat tada samadhi uchyate. And that is the becoming. Now the Chitta has completely become Shri Krishna, as is the case of example that we have taken. So that is the becoming. Chitta becomes Shri Krishna. Chitta becomes the support that the Dharna has opted for. There is that becoming and not absorption. And that's the kind of mysterious kind of monism that is spoken of in mysticism, the oneness that is spoken of in mysticism. It is this way. There is that becoming. So when the becoming is completely accomplished, that itself is Samadhi. So we are gone by the text to understand the three sutras and the three limbs. The important point to be noted that it is all integral process and there is no division. You cannot be terminating the dharana in the morning and say, I will continue in the evening and go to dhyana. And then midnight going for samadhi. You cannot divide your practice. Like you can divide your practice of asana and pranayama. So you'll say, this is a slot of asana, I am in asana. This is a slot of pranayama, I am in pranayama. I will do asana in the morning and pranayama in the evening, or vice versa. Such divisions are not possible between dharana, dhyana, samadhi. These three limbs are absolutely, totally integrated. All the whole yogic process is integrated process, integral process. But the integrality of dharana, dhyana, samadhi is exclusive to it. Dharana itself becomes dhyana and dhyana itself becomes samadhi. There are no walls, there are no divisions, and there are no demarcations. So that is how the dharana, dhyana, samadhi is to be understood. And finally, let me tell you that it's a continuous practice, as divulged on an earlier occasion. Sthula pranayam, Sukshma pranayam, pratyahar, pranavavalambanam, pranavanadanusandhanam, and then dharana, dhyana and samadhi. In case the flow is interrupted somewhere in the middle, it implies that one must go to starting point of Sthula pranayam. So this is only one point that should be inscribed in the mind, that there are stages of evolvement from Sthula pranayam to samadhi. In case of any obstruction or any kind of interruption or break, it implies that one must go to starting point and again evolve the process. So with that, the dharana, dhyana, samadhi stand explained. So we have seen that samadhi means dharana becoming dhyana, dhyana becoming samadhi. And therefore, the three together, whenever samadhi happens, you can't say, I did not have dharana but I got samadhi. I did not have dhyana but got samadhi. I did not have dharana but had a dhyana. This is impossible. Not even exceptionally possible. And therefore, these three come together in a unique way. And therefore, Patanjali gives a technical term for all the three together by the fourth sutra, Trayam Ekatra Samyamaha. The three put together is called Samyama. Because what is going to follow is certain vibhutis and siddhis which are based on samadhi. So if samadhi occurs, there is a siddhi thereafter. There is a siddhi thereby. But if the samadhi has occurred, that means it also means that dhyana has occurred and dharana has occurred. And therefore the composite condition is mentioned in one term, and Patanjali is going to take recourse to this term in the following part of the sutras, where he is going to describe about 30 to 35 siddhis. They are all samyamatmaka. That means by dharana, dhyana, samadhi. And therefore the fourth sutra comes up and tells us Trayam Ekatra Samyamaha. There is a composite terminology for dharana, dhyana, samadhi. Rather than saying dharana, dhyana, samadhi on such and such thing, such and such is the consequence. Now, for brevity, he has brought in a technical term called samyama. So, Trayam Ekatra Samyamaha. So, with this, we have ended the delineation on Ashtanga Yoga. All the 8 limbs of Ashtanga Yoga have been completed. And the last 3 came in Vibhuti Pada, for which the logic has been explained already. So with this, the Ashtanga Yoga delineation has ended. Now we proceed to the Samadhi and the endowments of Samadhi, called Siddhis, called Vibhutis. And these are all samyamatmaka. They all ensue from samyama, meaning dharana, dhyana, samadhi. So let us proceed to that part in our next session. So enough for the time being. Namaskar all of you.